I'd love to welcome to the stage Melanie Gorelick, the executive producer and writer. Pamela French, director and producer. Shira Gorelick, granddaughter of Joan. And of course, Joan Roth. And I'd like to welcome Susan Weidman Schneider, editor-in-chief of Lilith magazine, who will be moderating the conversation. And Sherry, do you want to join our conversation? Okay.
Sherry, thank you. What a treat. Oh, thank you all for being here, but mostly, huge thanks to the fabulous Joan Roth. One of the things that some of you know about Joan, but that I really have to comment on, is what a total delight it is to be with her when she's shooting. I really want to tell you again, and I've said this to you before, it never quite feels like it's an event until Joan is there, first of all. And the second thing is that I've had the tremendous privilege of being with Joan for many years, for decades. Your name has been on the masthead as Lilith's photographer, and we're very proud of that. And it's such a joy to say to Joan, there are some women running for office, kind of down ballot offices. What do you think? Are you interested? That's all you have to say is, are you interested? Be on the White House lawn at 5:30 in the morning, no problem. Get on a train at the crack of dawn and go into the wilds of Pennsylvania. Joan outpaces us all, but it's your very, very special eye and your heart and your mind. So it's really an extraordinary pleasure to see this and to be able really to honor you, to pay tribute to you. So huge, huge thanks for the work that you do, and really to the outstanding women who made this possible. You've already met them all. Thank you to the JCC. And I have to say, taking a personal moment, thank you very much, Shira, who was our intern at Lilith magazine, and a total delight. So it's great to see your marvelous work continue. And something that you don't know, and then we're going to get into questions. I have some for you, and I know that you all will too. But a very generous Lilith board member, in tribute to Joan and in honor of Joan, is giving you all a gift, a subscription to Lilith magazine. So there are cards inside the issue that you will get, and if you just fill out your details and leave them in the Lilith basket at the reception, someone wants you to see the photos of Joan's that will be running in the next issue and in subsequent issues. So in your honor.
Thank you.
Your honor.
Thank you so much.
So I am so eager to hear from all of you, but in particular, Melanie, we've talked about Joan's work and about your admiration for it, and about the shaping that the shaping really that it had in your life growing up. But tell me a little bit, tell all of us a little bit about why now and what really spurred you to put it on film. There have been books of Joan's photographs, and this feels just very different, to be able to hear in Joan's own words, in your own voice, your cadence, see your face, see your wonderful black and white setting, with the hot pink or scarlet colored cushions.
Those are mine.
I know. Those let the record show that the toss cushions on the sofa were Melanie's. Right.
Thank you, Susan. First, I just want to say none of this could have happened without Pamela. Pamela and I have been best friends since we were 11, 12, and got in a lot of trouble together when we were younger. But Pam really introduced me to film and that I could actually do something on film. And we spoke a lot about that we need to get my mom's story over the 3-year period of COVID. And I happened to be living with my mom during COVID, and so was very close to her. And so I really got excited about the idea of telling her story. This wasn't started as a film. First, we just wanted to interview her and get her story down because we didn't know what would happen during COVID.
If I'd be here or not.
Well, we just wanted, and then the story came to do it to showcase like her major areas of work. But really, I was just in Berlin on something called Widening the Circle with a group of people who were remembrance workers. Many of them were civil rights workers from the South. And it's a whole field that I wasn't that aware of. Thank you to Nancy Kaufman for getting me on that trip. But one of the themes that really I learned from there is remembrance is resilience. Remembrance is resistance. And civic courage is what we need to do. And when I'm walking away with that, and I said, that's why I did this movie. Because not only did I want to give honor to my mom and to get all of her work out there and to let people know, but given the rollback of Roe v. Wade, the culture war on women, younger women need to know whose shoulders they stand on. And my mother has the pictures to tell them. And the many people in this room also who are younger here are just learning about the feminists who work so hard to break barriers. And I hope that this is just the beginning of my work and our work to educate and to remember. Thank you.
Wow. And Pamela, what a marvelous experience it was to be filmed and directed by you, right, including take off your glasses. Sorry about that. Sorry to out you like that. But I'm really curious how Joan, as a visual artist and as a documentarian, how her work affected you. I mean, you've known of Joan and knew Joan and her work while you were being shaped as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I say that a lot. I mean, I think, as Melanie said, we grew up together, and at the time I lived with my father. He was my sole parent, and Joni was Melanie's, and Joni used to follow us around and like give us headaches about what we were doing or cutting school, and would tell all the other parents. And she was always this, Joan. But she was also this like woman that I totally identified with. And, I lost my mom when I was 16, and it was at the time that I had met Melanie. And so Joan became like, I had a lot of surrogate moms at the time. But I do have to be honest, when I look at this film and I look at the work, I'm a documentary filmmaker. And growing up, when she talks about the homeless women, and when she talks about, her kids being like, ew, why are you talking to them on the street, and being embarrassed by her documenting these homeless women, it was so important in my life. It really did mold who I think I became. I did become a photographer. That was my first step, and I owe that to Joan. And I went to school, and one of my professors at college saw my photographs and said, you need to go into film, because they were always telling a story. I never could take a single image. I was always doing triptychs or diptychs or whatever. But I do now, as I was telling Joan's story, I mean, I say to her all the time, she is my mentor. She was the person that made me who I am today. And telling this was really, there's so much more to tell. And, also when Melanie talks about, what's happened since we've started telling this film, it's also brought us all closer together. I mean, we drive each other crazy. We've become too close in the last 3 years. But, as I was saying to Gloria when she walked in, and Susan, the day we shot Gloria's interview, if you all see the beginning of the film, was the day that Roe was overturned. And we were trying to get this interview, and then I was like, oh my God, she's gonna cancel. I mean, it's like the sickest day, she's gonna need to make interviews or whatever. But we went to her house on that day, and that was magic. magical that all of us women were together, and we were together interviewing her. And of course, we wanted to shift the topic, forget Joan, let's talk about what's going on in the world, but we knew we had to get the job done. But then we left, and Joan, we'd shot all day. I think maybe we shot Susan also that day. No, we shot Barbara that day too. So we had already done 2 full day shoots, and Joan's like, we're going downtown. And we're like, what? We're going to Washington Square Park now. We're going to that rally. And I'm like, Joan, we've been shooting all day. We got it. No, but we literally got changed. We all got together, and Joan went and did all the photography in the beginning of the film because she had to be there. And, you know, everybody knew her there. They cleared the path. There were hundreds, and we saw in real time what was happening. And I'm like, that's the opening of the film, because she's never stopping. She's 80 years old, and she's continuing to do this, and she's been doing this since the two of us. I mean, she grew up, they all grew up with this their whole lives. But anyway, she's the real deal, period. And it's an honor. It's always been an honor. She's a second mother, second sister, I guess second child, whatever. But second daughter, my daughter. But yeah, it's a blessing to be a part of this and to be forever. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm the one who's blessed to have you guys.
Yeah, it was great. And we have more films to tell, so stick around.
I mean, it's a little bit dangerous. People are going to be calling you at 4 a.m. Listen, come with me.
I wish you would.
But it's true. It's true.
She's up.
She's up. Joan is up for adventure. You know, shall we go photograph in someone's closet? You bet. Shall we? Right? You have to see the next batch of photos. Shira, I have to say, I don't know if you remember, but you taught me something quite remarkable.
What was it?
About Joan, which is that no one ever photographs Joan. I don't know who took, and I know I've asked you this. Maybe you've told me, and I just didn't remember. The photograph of you behind the camera, which was shown at the beginning here, and you have it in the brochure that many of you received as you walked in. But Joan and I were going, do you remember that? We
It's a
were
hard
going
thing.
to visit Dr. Ruth Westheimer, and we spent a day with her shooting. But before I left the Lilith office, you said to me, Shira, take photos of Joan as she's taking photos of Dr. Ruth. And you were sitting on the floor photographing her. You were lying on the floor. But nobody documents you. So one of the things, really, so much testimony here that we feel grateful to the three of you for is that we get to see Joan in action. She's busy photographing everybody else's life. So how does it feel to be tell us a little about your own work. You're a screenwriter, and I know that you've done work in film too.
Yeah, sure. Well, I want to say anyone who follows me on Instagram definitely knows that grandma is my favorite subject to photograph. I love her like a grandmother, but more like a best friend, and I'm very grateful for our relationship. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but I wound up at Lilith not through any conversation with my grandma. I had always known about Lilith. Lilith had always been around, but I actually was in an existential crisis post-college, Googling feminist jobs to make the world better for women, like feminist jobs. And then I saw the Lilith internship, and I was like, oh, that is plausible for me. And then it wound up being such a wonderful experience. Haven't had a job like it since, but it's really, really, really wonderful. But I feel like I share so many traits with my grandmother, and I think that something about this film that's so wonderful is that it talks about her like compassion and curiosity as a person, which is the essence of life. It's the essence of connecting. And I think that what I walk away with is the notion that every person, no matter their circumstance, through an economic, racial, even gender lens, has inherent dignity and is worth knowing and is worth really making the extra effort and kind of almost being uncomfortable to reach out through the effort to get to know or to help. And I think that a lot of people who see division never had a figure to help them learn that we don't need it, you know? as people. And so I'm very grateful to have kind of a radical grandmother who taught me that, and also who taught me about yeah, I think another thing about this film too is it's such a pleasure to view, and there are things that are obviously, uncomfortable to see, but that's the point. I think it is looking at what people don't choose to look at sometimes. That's an important thing. And I also think that it also makes everything look really easy, but if you know my grandma, there's been a lot of struggle, and there's been a lot of healing, and there's been a lot of work. It's not like, she's like a bajillionaire who is just like, I'm going to fly to this country on a private jet, which is great if you have that. But, there's a lot of work and a lot of grit and a lot of determination to get what you wanted. And you don't take no for an answer when you believe that you're doing the right thing. And that's given me a lot of bravery.
I better talk into the microphone. I'm really eager to find out from you, Joan. What? No, it's okay. Don't panic. Really, what your reaction to the film is? How does it feel to be seeing the work there, and what do you want to do next when you see this? Are you ready to do the next phase? Thinking, wait, but we need to do X, Y.
Well, first and foremost, you probably all know it's really difficult for me to be in front of the camera instead of behind the camera. So, and it's worse to have an audience watching it. It's so, I don't know why, but it's so difficult for me, forgive me. But, and then especially to have all these, the greatest women in the world here, the women who changed the world, who are sitting in this front row, and Sherry up there, my dear friend Sherry, I have to thank her so much, who helped to make this possible, and of course all of them. And the only person I would let photograph me is Shira. You should see some of those photographs. They're really an embarrassment. But since she did it, what can I do? You have to listen to your grandchildren. But of course, when I watch it, when I watch it by myself, that's one thing. But then I do think about things. Well, this should have been in it, and that should have been in it, and how come that wasn't? And it's all my fault that it wasn't. But I wondered how come. And the thing is that, and I do think there's love to have more of it. But I'm just so grateful, basically right now, just to know all of you, because all of you are such great women, and I'd love to follow each and every one of you. And so many I have. And that's my privilege and honor, and I'm so grateful for it. I love it. I really do. So thank you. And I especially thank Gloria and Barbara and Sherry again, and of course Susan. But I'm so used to Susan, because we work so well together, so much together. I really, really appreciate everything. And thank you.
But before you sign off, I want to know.
Joan does say one thing. What is her thing when she sees the film? What does she say?
She said, if the film wasn't about me, I'd be very jealous of the person on the screen.
And I have no secrets anymore.
Well, and because we know how hard it is to make the revolution and to fund the revolution, say, please, a little bit, if you would, just about how your work over decades and decades, I mean, you have not been funded solely by the munificence of Lilith magazine's payments to you, after all. No, seriously, this is part of the artistic revolution, also documenting not only, and the stunning photos of Houston show you, where it's not only the change makers on the correct side of the issue, but also those who are protesting against women's rights. None of this is easy. How did it happen? How did you manage?
I don't know. I could never do it today. I couldn't do it the same way. I just had to do it. It was something in me. I can't ever explain it. I don't even understand it. It wasn't about who I was. I didn't go to school and study. Wasn't raised to do this. Something I had to do. Right? My sister is here, and I have to thank my sister for everything. Right? And didn't you all hate it? They all thought I was crazy, but she's such a great supporter, my sister. She took really good care of me.
And it
my
wasn't
mother.
it wasn't digital. She had, cameras, and her house when we grew up. I mean, she sent me a picture the other day. It was me looking at her while she was printing a photograph. I mean, she had her house was a dark room. It was like, and you go there now, it's like photographs and I mean, the wealth of, it's,
Yes, my sister was there today. She says, "You got to clean up this place."
No, but so my mom would get a vision of something that she wanted to do, and there was no stopping her. She just had to get there. So when she heard about women in Ethiopia, she got there. It wasn't like she found someone who was going there, who was bringing medicine to the people in the village, and somehow she befriended them, and they let her go. And she has the last photographs of women of people in Ethiopia, of how they lived there indigenously before they went down to Gondar and where Airlift did. And one of the things that's happening for my mom now is that many of the communities that she photographed are calling her and asking her to exhibit, because their children who now live in New York and Queens and Israel never saw how they lived, and their parents don't really have pictures. And my mom has those pictures.
And some of them are here. BJ and Helen
Yeah.
are here. Can you stand up?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess they're not doing it.
Susan.
There they are. Yay. They never listen to me. They're just like my own children. They never listen.
Susan, I'd love to bring the audience into the conversation. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask the panel?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want more.
Thank
And
you,
so this is
Barbara.
a question to the filmmakers. It needs to be longer. I need more of this film. And I think it should be a full feature. I hope that you have the funding, or we can help you get the funding to do that.
Thank you.
So, all right, so I didn't set Barbara up, but after doing this film, and it was really, even though I'm Joan's daughter, this film really brought me much closer and more in depth to her work. And
She's in charge now.
so we've launched the Making Women's Visible Joan Roth Legacy Project, and there's information out there. And the purpose of it is to help preserve. My mom's always photographing, but there's a lot that goes into preserving the work, organizing it, data and everything for the next generation. All the stories that she told here are just like a little microcosm. Those are history. We want to catch those stories. And we want to work with her to finish those stories. So, for example, the Jewish women, as you saw, it ended in 1985, but she has the picture. She's still been going to Israel and Poland and all over photographing, and we do want to finish the story. So we are looking almost like a startup. How do we get like a significant amount of funding in order to be able to spend the next 5 years preserving the work and finishing the projects and getting it out there through exhibits, books, etc. So, and want to learn more. These are out there. But I'm not doing a pitch, but this is the moment that we want to do.
And there's also
So it is a pitch, but
there's so much, even in the interviews that we had with Grandma, that we did cut out because she is so open about her life. And so there is a whole there are whole other parts of her life that weren't included in this movie that are also important in informing how she became this way. Like even with homeless women, like talking about how Grandma herself was on rent control. It wasn't like a voyeuristic thing. It was like a deep, deep empathy and also a fear at the time, and looking for solutions through community of like, oh, what if this happens to me? And it's not just about like looking outside of yourself. It is interdependency. So I like that part of her story and talking about that part of her story.
That's true. I lived my whole life fighting to keep my apartment
Yeah.
because I live in a rent-stabilized apartment.
that's how she knows how to do it.
And the thing is that it was when I got to be 80, right? And Queen Mother knows this very well. She's my dear friend in that regard. And when I got to be 80, I said, I'm not going to fight anymore for myself because I'm here. I got to live here. They're not kicking me out now.
We have another
'Cause
question
thanks
here.
to Gloria, who's a great advocate also, who said to our judge on behalf of us, said, you know, you can't do that to an 80-year-old lady, right? They belong in their homes. She's the greatest speaker. Next.
Queen Mother just wanted to inject, as the Queen Mother representing 55 million displaced Africans of the transatlantic ocean of the slave trade, and being at the United Nations for 54 years as a humanitarian, and meeting Joan has been such a joy. And as I said to Joan in my royal court of Harlem, where she comes to visit Queen Mother, and dealing with the issue of homelessness and how do we rise as women, given so much to the community as women, and then we find ourselves on the other side of the coin. And being on the other side and talking with Joan about the other side, we have so much in common. As women, talking about issues. First, the issue about being a Jewish woman and about the Holocaust, which Joan will talk about that all day and all night with you until you stop her. And that means you can't stop her. So she will continue to talk. And in that rendition with Joan, then I tell about the Holocaust of the transatlantic ocean of the slave trade of Queen Mother. So we have something in common as two women beyond homelessness and the issue of struggle of women. And with that is that we are two women, as I constantly tell her. Joan, she'll say the word, Queen Mother, I'm your friend. And she'll tell everybody, I'm your friend. I said, no, you are not my friend. I might as well say, Joan, you're my friend, because she's going to still repeat it to everyone. And I keep telling her, no, you're not my friend. I've been a Roman Catholic nun for 10 years, and you're not my friend. Then I finally had to explain to her, because her heart was broken with us hanging out with each other. I say, Joan, you are my sister from another mother who happens to be Jewish. So that's what we have placed before the world as two women going in the same direction and knowing ourselves. So we are very close. If you attack her, you will attack Queen Mother. And if you attack Queen Mother, then you have attacked Joan. So we live in the courts, okay, winning cases all the time. But I want to say one other thing as I drop the mic of reflection. Joan, you're so special. And yes, I'm going to tell a story about her too. And so we're doing a book, sharing our experiences with each other and what make us so close as women and what legacy we will leave for generations yet not born. So Joan, you're my sister from another mother who happens to be Jewish. Upon you, Joan.
See why we have to do more?
I think there is no better way to end this conversation with Queen Mother. Thank you so much to our entire panel, to Susan, and I'd love to welcome you all upstairs to a reception afterwards. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Melanie and Pamela, for this amazing film.
Thank you, Lauren. You've
and
been
thank
great.
you, Joan, for all your work.
Thank you so much, everyone. All of you mean so much to me. I'm so glad you